Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation on OpenAI 5, which is an artificial intelligence made for DoTA2. So, not many of you must be familiar with DoTA2. It's a complicated game to say the least. I mean, it's said to be n times more complicated than chess. I mean, you can even take chess, square it with chess, and still DoTA2 would be, more complicated. The reason for that is, Dota 2 has so many parameters that you need to look out for. I mean, I'm saying parameters because that would make more sense to many of the people that have learned machine learning. So, like, we have support and confidence for association rules mining. Dota 2 has like maybe tens of thousands of these things that you need to look out for in real time, and it stimulates your brain far greater than any other game that I have ever played. And I have played chess personally. I have played it for a really long time, and still I have yet to find a game which is more complicated than Dota 2. So coming to Dota 2, I mean, I love the game. That's an understatement, to be honest. I've spent a lot of time on the game. Not happy about it, but I have. And the game is just it's just really amazing. You have to play it to understand, but you get really addicted to it. So I would not recommend that you guys try it out. Coming to how Dota 2 was impacted by AI, I mean, I still remember the date. It was 2017. It was the time of the international. Now, international is a tournament that people who play Dota 2 religiously follow. We stop everything that we're doing, all the TV shows that we may watch in our free time, everything, and we just watch Dota for those 2 months. I mean, even people that have stopped playing the game since a really long time, they come back and they just enjoy Dota 2. I mean, those 2 months were best teams from the entire world, and by best, I mean the best teams from the entire world come together on a stage and they go at it. They see who's the best in the entire world, and a champion is crowned. And trust me, there's money involved. Like every year, Dota has competitions of over $30 million, which are funded by entirely all the people that play the game. And that's like 25% of whatever people put into the game goes towards the tournament. So it's like 30 times 4. So that's the money that the game makes every year just from 2 months of goodies that they sell online, which cannot be translated into real money at any point. But that's besides the point. Coming back to Dota 2. So yeah, 2017, right? I see that there's this news going on. Like all of my friends are very excited that there's this thing called OpenAI and it just beat Dendi in a 1v1 Shadow Fiend match. So, not all of you must have understood that, but 1v1 match is basically, it's a Dota 2 is a team game. So, when people skip the teams and just go one versus one to see who is technically the better player, and by technically, I mean actual mechanical skill rather than, you know, teamwork and stuff, which is really important in Dota 2. So people just go about seeing who's technically the better player by doing 1v1 matches. So an AI called OpenAI at that time beat Tendi, who was regarded as a very celebrated player, and he was one of the best 1v1 players at that time. And it just beat it with ease. That's what I heard. And then I went and I watched the match and I was just awestruck. The way it happened, like it was doing things that humans just didn't do at that time. Like now many people are trying to replicate what it did, but it was just ahead of its time. That's the least we can say. And that's funny because the first commit on OpenAI project was in 2016. But ironically, Dendi was not the only player that was beat that day. OpenAI went on to beat maybe 20, 25 players. Even the world's best player at that time was beat until one player known as Black, his in-game name is Black. He beat OpenAI 5. He's an American. He's a player from America. He beat OpenAI 5. He said in a funny interview that he claimed to have saved humanity as it was beating all of the pro players and he had to do something about it. But yeah, he did beat it. But if you would ask any professional player, they would just say that it was like, you know how a false positive occurs or an error occurs? You never know which one is going to happen. So it happened with Black. So, like, we have a 95% probability of the OpenAI beating all of the players. Black was just the remaining 5%, I guess. That's how he got lucky or something. But then, yeah, since then, there have been many other competitions. They are not included in the timeline because I wanted to keep it concise. But at 85 PFS days, which is like the project's first commit, first start, after that, it beat like many players from different internationals. I think it was a year later after this incident occurred where it beat almost all of the professional players. By this point, it had beat multiple professional teams. It had beat Alliance, SG Esports, it had beat Team Lithium, it had beat Team Secret, which was regarded as the benchmark. But it was just, for us, the spectacle was something that we couldn't. I mean, we were amused by it to say the least because let me say something about Dota 2, okay? It takes about 10 years for you to get a good understanding of the game. So let's take of it as a training testing example, right? So once you train your model, let's say you're training it for a time complexity of 3, and here 3 means 3 years, then your model will be as good as, let's say, 40% accuracy. And that's how Dota 2 works. You play it for 3 years, you go day and night, at least 5 or 6 hours every day in that game for 3 years, and you're gonna be about 40%. You would have learned the game only 40%, to say the least. We're not even talking about accuracy, we're just talking about how much you have learned the entire data set. I mean, the entire data that you can learn from Dota 2, I guess. But then these players, the ones that OpenAI was beating in 2017, they weren't, the average players like me or my friends who play the game. They weren't like 3 years into the game, 5 years into the game, 10 years into the game. They were in the game since its previous version, Defense of the Ancients 1. That's like 17 years ago for some people, some of those people. And that's not a small time. That's as far as the game began. Like, that's when the game was launched. But then OpenAI comes, it trains itself for a year, and then it just beats all of these players, and it's just fascinating. I mean, many people said that they were going to leave the game because of what they just saw. That we have been training for 5 years now, and we still are not as good as the professional players who have been training for 3 times that almost. And this AI bot comes and it just beats everyone. People were shocked. That's the reaction, which was, I guess, widespread amongst the entire DoTA2 community. But then another year passes by, and now the learning rate has been increased like a lot. Like, by this point, the amount that the game has spent training with itself, other professional players, and beating itself using reinforcement learning, it's like almost at the maximum capacity that a person can learn Dota 2. Then there was this team that also started their journey in 2018. So the team was called as OG Esports. So in 2018, OG came as an underdog in the international tournament, which is for $35 million at that at 2018. Like I said, OG beat the entire tournament with relative ease, and then they came back at 2019 again, and then they won 2019's TI2, which was the first time it has ever happened in the history of Dota 2. No team has won two TIs, and there have been 10 so far. I mean, 9. The TI10 did not happen because of the coronavirus, obviously. There have been 9 so far, and none of the teams have won twice. OG was the first team that won twice, and they won twice in a fashion that was spectacular to watch. They beat everyone straight. They did not suffer any losses throughout. They beat everyone in 20-25 minutes. A game usually takes about 40 minutes to play out. They beat everyone in 25 minutes. And that was just, again, I'm not trying to go into details of how Dota 2 works because not many people will understand that in the first go because it's a really complicated game. So just when I say beat, I mean the ancient has fallen for some of the people who actually know what Dota is about. So then OpenAI team says that we want to challenge OG after their dream run at TI9. And OG says, sure, why not? It's in the name of science, right? So let's do that. But then what OpenAI does, and this was a shock for the entire community, it won back to back game versus OG, the world champions of Dota 2, becoming the first AI to beat the world champions in an esports game, in any esports game, and there are many AIs out there. No world champion was ever beaten. This was the first time that that happened, and this was the comments that people had at this point. It was just really, people were amazed by what happened. People were the team players of OG. Seb, his name is Sebastian. His in-game name is Seb. He had really good things to say, which I'm gonna let you guys know in a few minutes. But that was just amazing to watch, and we witnessed all of that live at that time. And yeah, that's where my inspiration comes from for this presentation. I mean, I'm gonna make a bigger one, which will be about an hour long, which covers all the intricate details of how OpenAI functions and what business logic they are running behind and everything else. But the basic infrastructure that they are using is an complex multi-array observation space, which is processed into a single vector, which is written in the slide, which I'll be using to showcase everything. But what this basically says is that so Dota 2 is a game of 5 players in each team, right? So once each team has, they need to work together basically. So what they did was they built up an architecture which takes inputs and gives out actions rather than just outputs. It gives out value functions and actions which go into the next stage of the process that's running to sustain the entire game because decisions need to be made in nanoseconds in Dota 2. This LSTM architecture was composed about 84% of the model's total parameter count. How it functioned was it had observation processing, which then flattened all of these observations. It went into hero embedding for each particular hero which the AI had selected. Then it went into a general model, the LSTM model, which then converted all of these observations into value functions and action heads using tide weights. It was done with embedding a replica of the network with its own hidden state. The networks took different actions due to a part of observation processing output, indicating which of the 5 heroes is being controlled. So each of these hero was controlled by a replica of this network, which just completely, I guess, covered 84% of the parameters that is required in playing Dota 2, which is fascinating because Dota 2 has a lot of parameters. Yeah, considering that this was a sort of a stage run, so they had restricted a lot of the constraints that Dota 2 has to make the model less complex so that it can learn faster. But now they're saying that they can do all of the things, they can implement that. It would just take longer to process all of it and for the machine to learn again till that stage. So they had cut about the entire Dota 2 game to about 25% of its total parameter count, and 84% of those 25% was processed using LSTM architecture. Yeah, so the world champions were also restricted to only 25% of the full potential of Dota 2, but then still they could have won the entire game. OpenAI was just better. That's the least that we can say. So now let me say a few words on Dota and why OpenAI's achievements were big. So teamwork. Can an AI work with other teams? Like with other AIs? Like till now we have seen AIs play chess, we have seen AIs play Go, we have seen AIs drive cars. That's a solo activity. There's nothing relating to a team about it. This you just have actions, you find solutions for that, and that's it. That's how the AI worked. But for Dota 2, you need teamwork because five players, five heroes are on the battlefield. They need to work together. And I can't insist on this enough. They really need to work together because if they don't, I'm sorry, if they don't, then the other team will just win very early on. So, and there's nothing that you can do about it after a certain point. So, from the get go, teams need to work together. So this was very shocking that an AI can actually work together, and this is what OpenAI team, which is a subsidiary of Elon Musk's OpenAI project, they were able to achieve. They were able to make sure that AIs can work with other AIs, and this is where the LSTM architecture came in for them. Beating other humans at understanding the game. So understanding Dota 2 can be, it's very intuitive. Like you need to have good intuition to even be able to get a foothold in the game, and that's like after a year of rigorous playing the game every single day, that's when you get a foothold. These players that AI beat had understanding of the game going past like 20-25 years, and since then they some of them were even involved in making the game, and they have been practicing the game since the last 17 years. And I mean, the maximum of which was 17 years, and these AIs beat them. So, does that mean that an AI actually understands complex stuff better than humans? Does that mean that we need to mm, outsource all of our day to day works to AI and focus on other things which humans are better at, which is creating stuff, right? AI cannot just create something. I mean, I'm sure at a point it could, but right now it just can't. So who knows? That's just my thinking. Finding new techniques. So this is something of a sensitive topic because some players claim that they already knew of those techniques, they just did not find them to be good enough to be used. But AI used them. They were better than the humans at those techniques in Dota 2 and they won. So for people who know chess, let's call it as playing Queen's Gambit. I mean, that's a very famous show right now. So playing Queen's Gambit, maybe. AI learned these techniques, these openings, let's say for chess. They learned them and they were better than humans at them. Are they really the new future? Or what? I mean, I really think they are, but it's just me. So now, yeah, coming back to the bigger picture. So this is a quote from Seb. I mean, the first two lines are his quote, and the last line is mine. He says that you play against OpenAI and you realize that it has a playstyle that is different. It's doing things that you've never done and you've never seen. Sometimes it looks extremely silly, but then again, are you going to be human and be like, hey, this looks very stupid? Is this bad? Or do you try to take it to the next steps like, why is it doing this? So again, this comes back to the thing that I'm going to explain what he's trying to say. So AI did something really funny in this game. Like it just started walking randomly at a place where it was not supposed to at that time of the game. And Dota 2 is a very time reliant game. You have to be at a certain place at a certain time to take advantage, take full advantage. But Dota, the AI bot was not at that place, and they felt it was very funny. They were making fun of it in their voice chat. I mean, we all heard that, but Seb at that point he was thinking, wait, why is it there actually? Why is the bot there? Like, what is it doing there? Like, should we make fun of AI, something that we don't know, maybe better than us? Or do we take advantage of it and learn from it? Like, let's observe what it's doing. Maybe it's doing something really good, which is what exactly what it turned out to be. Because it was there, these guys, the other players, the OG, the dream team, as they were called, the world champions, they went to kill that ball. And Dota 2 you can kill and they respawn, so that's where you get cold and stuff like that. Just giving you an overview. I don't want to bore you guys. These guys went to kill that, and turns out that was a trap. So, did AI actually anticipate humans thinking this way? That if they see the bot at such a place where it's not supposed to be, they're gonna try and ambush him to kill him, and then the AI team can take advantage of this, which they did. They entirely wiped out the entire human team at that point. All five humans were killed, and the AI which was baiting, which is what it's called in Dota 2, actually left. So this is something that we really need to think at. Like, can we actually learn from the learning process of a bot? Like when a AI is actually learning something, can we as humans learn from it as well? Like, do we just make use of the AI that we're getting at the end, which has learned entire thing, or do we also make use of its learning process to learn a thing or two for ourselves? Then he says, one key learning that we took is how it was allocating resources. It's just allocating resources as efficiently as possible. And then you realize that we are being guilty of being stuck in a team dynamic. Whereas sometimes we have to be way more flexible. If OpenAI does that dynamic switch at 100%, we maybe went from 5 to 10%, but that is already a difference we've noticed. So this is a complicated statement. Not everyone would understand this, but there's a concept of sacrifice. You might have heard that in chess. Many people who play chess. I mean, I would say Go, but I don't play Go, so I don't know as many things about it. But people that have played chess know how sacrifices work. Like, you can sacrifice something to gain an advantage. Maybe let it be in uh, development, or let it be in getting an extra pawn, getting a passed pawn. You can take advantage by sacrificing your pieces. But OpenAI did that so efficiently. It was allocating its resources beautifully. Like, that is a statement on its own. Dota 2 is a very resource heavy game. You need to make sure that you're allocating your time, especially your time, guys, perfectly. And OpenAI was doing that perfectly. But something that it already knew was it was able to break the team dynamic at any point that it wanted. So as humans, when, and this is something which is really surprising, not so surprising, which is really amazing, is that we humans, we, when we're working in a team, we don't necessarily think as selfishly. So Dota 2 is a team or is a game where you need to be a little bit selfish. So the position 1 and the position 2, which after a certain point are gonna be the only thing that matters in the game, because the position 3, 4, 5 would just be supports and they wouldn't matter as much in the game. I mean, some people would have something to say about that, but this is how it generally works. That's my opinion. And these position 1 and position 2 in OpenAI were so excessively selfish that we were fascinated by that. Seb was as well, the person who said this quote. Like, it just went from one point caring about the entire team to just no care at all. Like, in a snap, it just stopped caring about its team, like whether whatever happens to its other players. The position 1, position 2 just moved forward. They went on to do better things which would yield in them winning the game, which they did, and boy did they win well. But then we humans were not able to do that. Like, when we are in a team fight and we realize that we are going to lose, we have the tendency of staying there and losing rather than leaving that place and doing something better. So that is what Seb is referring to here. We can go from 5 to 10%, maybe changing this team dynamic. We can just switch it. But OpenAI was able to do that very easily. Like, they went from being a team player to being a selfish player in just a snap, and they were 100% efficient at it. Even changing their play styles. This is also something that the statement refers to. Like, when they felt that they were ahead, they were playing aggressive, and when they felt that they were behind, they were playing very sustainable. They were playing very calm and trying to get the better of the humans. But yeah, that's what Seb is trying to refer here. So the final statement, it's from me. Like, this is just me saying AI is the future. Mind you, it's coming, whether we want it to or not, just by necessity, if anything else. So that's what I want to say here is that there's many people out there that are saying that once AI comes, once artificially driven cars are coming, the industries such as Amazon, any delivery services, all the trucking companies would go privatized AI, right? They would use privatized AI to make sure that they can do it for cheaper rather than using humans, and those humans will be out of a job. What I think you guys should take that as is that we're moving forward as a human race. Once AI takes up all of these menial jobs, such as cleaning our houses, doing our dishes. I mean, some people still have maids in some countries. Then driving our cars and, opening the door for us, being a security guard. Once AI does all of these things, we as a human race, I mean, not those people that were doing those menial jobs without a proper education, but we as human race, we can move forward, right? We can do stuff that actually takes human race further rather than stay exactly where we are. Like, this is right now, we're in a state of homeostasis, right? Where our life begins. We go to school, we learn a lot of stuff, we run behind money, we get money, and then our kids do the same. That's what human life is all about. But once all of the getting money stuff is done by AI, once you don't have anything to worry about, once there's no need for medicine, like you don't need to go to a doctor, you can just consult an AI. There's no need for finance applications. AI is taking over that too. Once all of these things are done by AI, humans can work towards stuff that AI can't do, like inventing new stuff. I mean, do we even remember how invention was done? How many of you guys truly, honestly, know that inventions exist? Like, how many of you have invented stuff, to be honest? Not, I haven't in a long time. Unless we count computer code to be an invention, then, well, we all have. But yeah, coming back to that, like, we can then explore space, we can explore underwater. God knows we doing that properly, we can do all of these things very efficiently, and which AI can't do. Like, it would go to space, it would have to learn a lot of stuff. It just wouldn't know what to do there. But humans, we are intuitive, right? That's what we have going for us. We don't need to take 2 years to learn a game. We can start and intuitively learn it while we are actually facing it. Like, once we are put in a fight or flight situation, we have our responses. AI would just freeze. We can go to space, we can learn how dark matter exists, how black holes exist, how are there any more civilizations. We can learn something more than we actually are learning right now. We can progress as a race, and this is a human race, right? We are not, there's no America, there's no Soviet Union, there's no India, there's nothing. It's just, I'm sorry, not Soviet Union, now it's Russia. So there's nothing, right? It's just human race. We are all humans. We need to progress together. And I think AI will make sure that we can do that. And I'm all up for it. Like, I know many might not be, but yes, I do feel that this is the way that we are supposed to go. This is the way that it's supposed to progress, I guess. Thank you guys, whoever stayed till the end. If you guys are interested, we can talk more about this. I mean, I do want to make a bigger presentation on this topic and with more technical details, because the paper that the team of OpenAI wrote was just excellent, and I will do that in the coming few days. If anyone wants that, then please talk to me about it. I'll be sure to let you guys know when I'm ready. And thank you for your time. More to come soon. The end. Any questions, please ask me. You guys can mail me, obviously. Take care. Bye bye.